You're not tired because you're doing nothing. You're tired because you're carrying everything. What if Jesus never asked you to live like that? Have you ever noticed how the world goes quiet at night, but your mind gets louder? Not louder in a dramatic way, just relentless. The notifications stop. The lights dim. The house finally rests. And still, your thoughts keep pacing like a guard on patrol. You replay conversations you can't fix. You rehearse disasters that haven't happened. You scroll for a few more minutes, then a few more. Because silence feels too honest. And somewhere in that dark, you realize a brutal truth. You can be exhausted and still unable to rest. And maybe the hardest part is this. You're not anxious because you don't care. You're anxious because you care. Because you're trying to hold your life together with your bare hands. So here's the question that changes everything. What if your anxiety isn't proof that you're broken, but proof that you're trying to carry what you were never meant to carry? Let's take a breath together. This isn't about pretending you're fine. It's about learning how to come home inside yourself, to step out of the mental prison so many good people live in. Quietly, every day. Jesus, gentle, firm, unshakably clear, offers a way, not a list of rules, not a performance, a guide, a path toward peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. Most people don't wake up and choose anxiety. It happens slowly, almost invisibly, like rust. You start checking your phone first thing, just to be informed. You start working a little later, just to stay ahead. You start saying yes to things you don't even want, just to keep the peace. And one day you realize your life is full, but your soul feels thin. We live in a culture that worships control. We plan. We optimize. We track. We hustle. We learn to believe that if we think hard enough, prepare enough, work enough, we can outrun pain. But anxiety is often the soul's way of whispering. You are trying to govern what only God can hold. It's not just big things. Illness, money, relationships. It's also the small, invisible pressures. The pressure to be liked. The pressure to be productive. The pressure to be on all the time. The pressure to look confident when you don't feel steady. You carry it quietly because you don't want to be a burden. But the truth is, you are already burdened. Anxiety almost always lives in the future. Not in this moment. Not in this breath. In the next breath, the next email, the next bill, the next unknown. Your body is sitting in a room, but your mind is living in 1,000 possible endings. And if you're honest, some of those endings aren't even logical. They're emotional. They're inherited. They're old wounds wearing new clothes. That's why you can be safe and still feel unsafe. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned this lie. If I can be strong enough, good enough, spiritual enough, then I'll finally feel peace. So we perform. We perform competence. We perform calm. We perform faith, even when our inner world is shaking. But the soul cannot be healed by acting healed. Jesus does not deny the reality of trouble. He doesn't tell you to ignore responsibilities. He speaks to something deeper. The way we try to survive without ever surrendering. He says, in essence, stop living like you're alone. One of the most tender truths he gives is this: your Father knows what you need. Read that slowly. He knows. There's a difference between believing in God and believing you are known by God. Because anxiety is often the fear of being unseen. Jesus speaks to that hidden place, and he gives you a rhythm for daily life. Seek first what is eternal. Put first what cannot be stolen. Pray where nobody applauds. Go into your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father in secret. Not about public performance, about private honesty. Watch and pray. Pay attention to your inner world. Notice what you're feeding. Notice what you're rehearsing. Notice what you're worshiping without calling it worship. Then pray. Because you were never meant to fight alone. Do not fear. Only believe. Not denying reality, but seeing it through God's eyes. Fear isolates you inside your mind. Faith reconnects you to God, to your breath, to the present. The world teaches, control everything, or you'll collapse. Jesus teaches, surrender to God, and you'll be strengthened. And surrender isn't weakness. It's one of the most powerful things a tired soul can do. Let me tell you a story that might feel familiar. There's a man or a woman who looks fine from the outside, responsible, reliable, the one people count on. Inside, the mind never stops negotiating with disaster. He wakes up and checks the phone, not for drama, for certainty, because uncertainty feels dangerous. He tells himself, if I stay ahead, I'll be okay. He carries the weight of family. He carries the weight of future. He carries the weight of being the strong one. At night, when the world finally quiets, he feels it. That heavy pressure in the chest, that restless scanning of the mind, that exhaustion that doesn't turn into sleep. One night, he sits on the edge of the bed, not even crying. Past that, he whispers, almost ashamed, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And then he remembers something Jesus said, go into your room, shut the door, and pray. So he does. Not perfectly, not poetically. He shuts the door and tells the truth. God, I'm scared. I'm scared I won't provide. I'm scared I'll fail. I'm scared I'll lose what I love. I'm tired of pretending I'm not. The bills are still there. The problems are still there. But something loosens. Not in the circumstances. In the soul. He stops negotiating with the future and returns to the present with God. Then he does something small. He grabs a piece of paper and writes 3 things. Not 10. 3. The one thing he must do tomorrow. The one conversation he has been avoiding. The one act of kindness he can offer. Quietly. Then he draws a line under it. Everything else goes below the line. That's tomorrow's weight. Not today's. He prays 1 sentence. Father, guide me through what's above the line and hold what's below it. That is what spiritual maturity looks like sometimes. Not fireworks. Not perfection. Just a tired person finally letting God be God. And in that surrender, peace begins to return. Not like a flood. Like a slow sunrise. Now make it practical. Write down 3 most important things for today. Just 3. Then say, I will carry today. God will carry tomorrow. Choose a time, morning or night. Shut the door. Put the phone face down. Pray like a human, not a performance. Father, here's what I'm afraid of. 3 times a day. Pause for 10 seconds. Ask, what am I rehearsing in my mind right now? If it's fear, name it gently. Then breathe and return to the present. When your mind spirals into what if, replace it with, what is the next faithful step? Each morning, draw a line on a page. Above the line, what you can do today. Below the line, what you cannot control. Then pray. Guide what I can do. Hold what I cannot. Let me say this slowly. You are not weak because you feel anxious. You are human, but you don't have to live imprisoned. Peace is not something you earn by being flawless. Peace is a relationship, a daily returning. The true meaning of faith is not that you never feel fear. It's that fear no longer gets to be your master. So tonight, if your mind starts pacing again, don't fight with noise. Don't numb with scrolling. Don't shame yourself. Just whisper, Father, I'm here. Guide me. Give me peace. And take the next small step, the one you can take today. Because today is where grace lives. Today is where you are held. Today is where the prison door can open. Have you ever caught yourself doing it? Almost without thinking. Someone says something you don't like, and your mind quietly builds a case. You don't raise your voice. You don't make a scene. You just tighten inside. You replay their words. You rewrite their motives. You decide what kind of person they must be. And in the privacy of your head, you win the argument. Then you go back to your day. Productive. Polite. Fine. But something in you feels sharp. Defensive. Restless. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't judge because we're evil. We judge because we're trying to feel safe. The ego is not just arrogance. It's a survival strategy. It's the part of you that learned that being humble might get you overlooked. That being honest might get you hurt. That being vulnerable might get used against you. So the ego steps in like a bodyguard. Stay in control. Don't look weak. Make sure you're right. It promises safety, but it's counterfeit because the ego can protect your image while quietly poisoning your peace. So let me ask you gently, what if the thing you call strength is actually the mask you're wearing to avoid feeling afraid? The ego is formed, sometimes by pain, sometimes by rejection, sometimes by pressure. You compare your life to someone else's highlight reel, your faith to someone else's certainty, your timeline to someone else's timing. Comparison turns life into a courtroom. Someone must be winning. Someone must be losing. So the ego collects evidence, not because you hate others, because you fear being less. If you grew up in chaos, you may have learned, if I can predict people, I can survive people. So you scan for tone, you look for threat. And when you can't control someone, you try to control the story about them. That's judgment. You may also live with a quiet belief. I am loved when I'm impressive. So you perform competence. You perform kindness. You perform spirituality. You say the right things. But inside, you are exhausted. Because you're carrying a version of yourself that isn't real. The ego can build a strong image and a fragile soul. Jesus speaks to the ego's addictions. The addiction to judgment. The addiction to appearance. the addiction to being seen as good. He offers a different path. Judge not. Not because wrong isn't real, but because you aren't God. Harsh judgment gives temporary superiority, but it costs intimacy. Judgment closes doors. Mercy opens them. When you obsess over the flaws of others, you often avoid the wounds in yourself. So Jesus pulls you back, not to shame you, to heal you. Be humble like a child, not humiliation. Freedom. A child doesn't need to prove they belong. A child can ask for help. A child can cry and still be loved. Humility is the courage to say, I don't know. I was wrong. I need help. I'm still learning. That kind of humility is powerful. You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. The deepest bondage isn't always outward. It's the inward lie. I must be perfect. I must be strong. I must be right. I must be admired. I must never be ashamed. Jesus transforms identity. Freedom doesn't come from a flawless image. It comes from living without a mask. If you love me, keep my commandments. Not fear-based compliance. Love-based alignment. Blessed are the pure in heart, not spotless. Sincere. Undivided. The world says, protect your image. Jesus says, protect your heart. The world says, if you're wrong, you lose. Jesus says, if you're humble, you grow. The world says, curate your life. Jesus says, consecrate your life. The ego feels like armor, but it becomes a cage. Nobody can truly connect with a mask. Picture someone who keeps score, not with numbers. With emotional receipts, they remember who didn't show up, who didn't appreciate, who made them feel small. When disappointed, they withdraw. It looks like maturity. It's self-protection. Then someone says, you're kind, but you feel far away. That sentence lands like a stone. They pray honestly. God, I think I've been using strength as a hiding place. I don't want to be hurt again, so I judge. I withdraw. I pretend I'm fine, but I'm lonely. They sit long enough to feel grief. Not just what someone did, the years behind walls. Blessed are the pure in heart. Purity is being undivided. So the next day, they tell the truth softly. I've been guarded. I've been afraid. I want to try again. Not because the other person becomes perfect, because fear stops writing the story. Now the practice is, when you feel the need to judge, pause and ask, what might be happening in them that I cannot see? Every day, say one honest sentence to God or someone safe. I'm not okay today. I feel insecure. I'm scared. I need help. I was wrong. Once a day. Ask for help with something small. Train your soul out of self-sufficiency. Ask yourself, am I doing this to be seen or to be true? Pick one daily habit that anchors you. 5 minutes of silence, a short prayer, one line of scripture, one quiet act of kindness. Storms don't destroy people with imperfect lives. Storms destroy people with no foundation. You don't have to be impressive to be secure. You don't have to be right to be loved. You don't have to be untouchable to be strong. The ego will whisper, hide, and you'll be safe. Jesus offers a better way. Come into the light, and you'll be free. And if you recognize yourself here, don't turn away in shame. Recognition is not condemnation. It's an invitation to put down the armor, to stop living in a courtroom, to let your soul be strengthened by truth. Because the true meaning of safety was never control. It was always communion. Let's be honest, it's not life that breaks us the fastest. It's people, not strangers only, but the ones close enough to matter. A friend who disappeared, a parent who loved you but never saw you, a spouse who keeps touching the same bruise, a coworker who smiles while quietly competing. If you've been hurt enough times, you learn a skill that looks like maturity. You keep your heart at a safe distance. You don't stop being polite. You just stop expecting. You say, "It's fine." When it isn't, you avoid the conversation that could heal because it could also expose you. So how do you keep loving when love has hurt you? Jesus does not offer love as a sentiment. He offers love as a discipline, a holy craft, a spiritual art, not to make you a doormat, not to tolerate abuse, but to break the cycle, because the deepest prison is often unforgiveness. The quiet chain that ties your heart to yesterday. In a wounded world, love feels risky. We confuse boundaries with walls. Boundaries are healthy. Walls are lonely. We confuse peace with avoidance. Avoidance swallows words. Resentment ferments. Bitterness waits. We confuse strength with retaliation. Sometimes with words, sometimes with silence, sometimes with sarcasm that sounds like humor. Retaliation keeps the wound alive. When you become what hurt you, you don't just suffer pain. You inherit its shape. Jesus begins with the foundation. Love God above all, because without secure love at the center, you demand too much from human love. Love your neighbor as yourself, not more than yourself, not forgetting yourself. Integrated love, dignity for others, gentleness for self. Forgive. Again and again. Not pretending, not ignoring justice, releasing vengeance, refusing to be the executioner of your own peace. Love your enemies, not calling evil good, not staying in harm's way, not ignoring boundaries. It means you refuse to let hatred occupy your heart. Hatred lives inside you like a tenant, and it charges rent. Be merciful. Strength with restraint. Seeing humanity even when behavior is broken. Be a peacemaker, not avoiding discomfort. Moving toward healing. Becoming a bridge. Serve rather than be served. Love with hands. Love that shows up. The world says, protect your peace by cutting people off. Jesus says, protect your peace by healing your heart. Sometimes distance is necessary. But even then, Jesus calls you to internal freedom. The world says, if they hurt you, hurt them back. Jesus says, break the cycle. The world says, forgiveness is letting them win. Jesus says, forgiveness is letting you live. Picture a family table, food on plates, voices in the room, something cold underneath, unspoken pain. After another tense dinner, someone goes to the kitchen alone, washing dishes, washing anger. Why should I keep trying? Why should I keep loving someone who keeps hurting me? Then a line rises. Blessed are the peacemakers. Not blessed are the ones who win. Blessed are the peacemakers. They don't feel holy. They feel tired, but they see it. If I keep responding with sarcasm, and silence. I will become a version of myself I don't recognize. So they do one small thing. Honest. Soft. Later. They sit beside the person. Heart pounding. Vulnerability feels like a cliff. I miss us. Not an accusation. A confession. When you say those things, I don't just get angry. I feel small. And when I feel small, I become cold. I don't want to live like this anymore. A long pause. They don't fill it with control. And something happens. Not perfection. But a door opens. I didn't know you felt that way. That sentence doesn't erase years. But it opens a door. Love often heals through truth spoken gently. And the courage to stay present. Now the practices. When you feel triggered, ask, what am I really feeling underneath my anger? Embarrassment, rejection, fear, grief, loneliness. Name it. Start micro-forgiveness. Today, I choose not to feed this bitterness. When provoked, pause. Breathe once. God, help me respond with wisdom. Send one peacemaker message. I want peace between us. I want to understand. I'm sorry for my tone. Do one secret service act. No applause. Just love with hands. Use boundaries with blessing. I can't stay in this conversation when it becomes disrespectful. But I'm praying for your good. And I want healing. Pray for your enemy. Not excusing. Releasing yourself. If this chapter stirred longing and resistance, that's normal. The goal is not to become someone who never gets hurt. The goal is to become someone who doesn't become hard. Hardness keeps you functional, not alive. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to say, that was wrong. And still, by grace, you can choose not to let pain turn you into a prison for others. That is holy strength. That is love with weight. That is the art. And when you practice it, one breath, one prayer, one small act at a time, you find peace. Not the absence of struggle, the presence of a healed heart. If you're honest, money doesn't just live in your wallet. It lives in your chest. It shows up as tightness when you open your bank app, as quiet shame when you compare your life, as restless need to get ahead, even when you're already tired, even when you have enough. It can still feel like you don't. Money rarely asks for your bills first. It asks for your trust. In a world that feels like competition, it's easy to start living like your worth has a price tag. So here is a healing question. What if the thing you call security is actually what's keeping your soul anxious? There's a difference between being responsible and being ruled by fear. Jesus isn't anti-work. He is protective of your heart. Whatever you cling to for safety will eventually start owning you. Most people don't worship money on purpose. They just lean on it. Because money feels tangible. Options feel like peace. But responsibility becomes obsession. Obsession is fear. Money can become identity. Productivity becomes proof. Income becomes worth. Achievements become permission to rest. And deep down, a fear whispers, if I stop, I'll fall behind. If I fall behind, I'll be forgotten. If I'm forgotten, I won't matter. That's not a money problem. That's a soul problem. Money can reduce stress. It can solve certain problems. It cannot make you feel held. It cannot forgive you. It cannot cleanse shame. It cannot give meaning. So the finish line keeps moving. Anxiety returns. Jesus speaks with clarity. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Not a threat, a diagnosis. Your heart follows what you trust. If your treasure is money, your heart will live in fear. Because money is fragile. Be careful what you anchor your heart to. Give in secret, not performative, not controlling, not earning approval. Giving in secret breaks the ego's addiction to recognition. It purifies the heart. It reminds you, I am provided for. Therefore, I can provide. Seek first the kingdom. Put your needs in the right order. Abide in me. The secret to sustainable purpose. A branch doesn't strain to create fruit. It stays connected. Abiding means you stop living on adrenaline and start living from communion. Wait for God's timing. Waiting is not wasted time. Waiting is formation. Bear fruit that remains. Success that lasts beyond applause. Be light. Be salt. Purpose is often practiced, not announced. Picture a person who finally made it. Good job. Nice place. Full schedule. At night, a strange emptiness. The ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. One day, sitting in a car in a parking lot. Silence loud. A thought rises. Is this it? Where your treasure is. They realize their treasure has been the next milestone, and the heart has been chasing it. So they begin to give. Quietly. Secretly. They pay for groceries once. They support someone without announcing it. They tip more than feels comfortable. And sit with the discomfort. Their grip loosens. Because generosity exposes the lie. There will never be enough. Then they begin to wait. They stop rushing decisions out of fear. They pray before moving. They let silence teach. They discover purpose isn't an achievement. It's relationship lived out in the world. Work becomes a place to be light, not a place to prove worth. They listen more, serve more, become present, and sleep returns. Not because life is perfect, because the heart is anchored. Now the practices. Once a day, ask, what am I trusting today to make me feel safe? Name it, then whisper, God, I put my trust back in you. Before an impulsive purchase, pause. Am I buying comfort or buying relief? Choose one secret act of giving each week. Make a simple list. What you need, what you want, what you can give for major decisions. Wait 24 hours if possible. Pray, listen, let your nervous system settle. 3 times a day, ask, am I operating from communion or from panic? If panic, return. Inhale slowly, exhale longer. Guide me each day. Do one purposeful act. Encourage someone, help someone, tell the truth gently. Show up with kindness. Money can be a tool. It's a terrible master. You can work hard, plan wisely, build a life, and still keep your heart free. Freedom isn't endless resources. Freedom is being able to say, even if I have less than I want, I have what I need. God with me, peace in me, purpose through me. Purpose doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the everyday. Be salt here. Be light here. Love here. Serve here. Forgive here. Wait here. And when you do, slowly, faithfully, you bear fruit that remains. Not success that fades. A life that lasts.